Another Wednesday is come and gone, and I've got some comics. Let's talk about them. Hey, welcome to 9 Panel Grid. This week, we've seen broken alliances, corporate funded mayhem, and freeze dried friendships. But we're going to kick things off this week with Absolute Batman number 8, written by Scott Snyder with artwork by Marcos Martin. This was a really fun conclusion to the mini story arc where we were introduced to the Mr. Freeze of the Absolute Universe. And I gotta say, overall, I was really pleased with what they did here, especially considering that we're outside of the normal scope of the creative team, since Marcos Martin is the kind of stand in artist for Dragoda. This was really cool. I think that there was a menacing tone that they were able to deliver through most of this. And I really like the way that they really built up the nature of what the absolute universe and the absolute Gotham really means right here and right now for Bruce and his group of friends. It's really widening the scope of what's going on here. And we're starting to get bits and pieces of what this all means for Bruce and Batman and the greater parts of the universe here. There's conversations that happen between Freeze and these mysterious people that lead us to believe that there's more to be revealed here at a later date. The other cool thing is that Bruce is having these really weighty conversations with his group of friends, right? His rogues gallery that we know from the DC Prime universe. They're really having a come to Jesus moment with Bruce and kind of explaining the difference between why his approach here and what he really needs to do and when he needs to lean on the people that he can depend on. That was the best part. It was the heartbeat of this storyline, and I think it really was driven home here by the great artwork, which was very minimalistic in that part by Marcos Martin here, where everything was very silhouetted until the point where it felt like Bruce maybe understood what they were trying to get through to them. Overall, I think it was a really successful issue. It was a downbeat from the kineticism that we're normally getting here, but I have to say I am ready for Dragoda to come back and give us that hyperkinetic parts of the story here where that's really like manga influenced and just really hypercharged. So I'm ready for that. Overall, though, this issue was totally good. Next up, we have Aquaman number 5, written by Jeremy Adams with artwork by John Timms. This was a really fun issue, like really, really fun. I think that what they're doing with Arthur Curry is really ramping up the action and ramping up the excitement to make it more appealing for people that maybe don't really look to Aquaman for their superheroic book. And I gotta say, it's working for me right now. This issue really leans into a couple different ideas, though. It really ramps up on that action even more so, but also gets a little bit literary in parts of it as we see some character pop in here that I wasn't necessarily expecting. Arthur is going against this corrupt bureaucratic environment that he finds here in this weird altered dimension as he's trying to look for Atlantis and look for his family. And it's really fun the way that he handles it, and really fun the way that they kind of like, again, ramp up that action. It is really energetic. It's really adventurous. I love what they're doing here. It like just doesn't it takes the plot and makes it secondary. There's very little character development, very little plot moving forward here, but I'm just having so much fun. Every single page turn is like a new, I don't know, hits a new pleasure point here as Arthur is either having fun being witty and bantering back and forth with these people and setting them up, or just beating the crap out of all the bad guys here. And who doesn't love that when it comes to superheroic comics? So Aquaman, I don't know. I'm just pleasantly surprised by the classic adventurous nature that this book is delivering each and every time. Sticking around at DC, we have Batman Dark Patterns number 6, written by Dan Waters with artwork by Hayden Sherman. This issue kind of hit me a little bit differently than what I've seen previously, as I've really talked highly of each and every issue. And that's not to say that this was a bad issue by any means. I really, really enjoyed it. But it felt like a mad dash towards the ending of this little mini arc, since each one of these little arcs take up 3 issues of the 12-issue story that's being told here. So it puts an end cap on our Scarface story. It just felt like it was so much exposition, and it was just like trying to wrap up so many things here that really could have been stretched out to maybe 4 to 6 issues here. But given what they were doing and how they're shaping this series, it does make sense that they had to get to that end point. The high point of this is Hayden Sherman's artwork because they are doing things, again, just like I've said before, that no other artist is really doing in the medium of comics right now. Some of the panel layouts here that we're working with the building basically that Scarface has taken over, and the way that they shape some of the panel layouts and how they kind of like deliver the notion of vertigo and the height of everything just within the panels, not so much even the building itself, is really stunning work. I really like what they're doing there. The storyline, again, it wraps everything up, it delivers everything it needs to. And the best part about the story, the 3-issue arc that we've gotten here, is that this is early stage Batman and everything feels grounded. But for the first time, it's making us question the nature of how grounded the crime in Gotham really is. Maybe there is a supernatural element to all of this, and maybe there's more to the story of Gotham itself as the character in this book. That's the best part of this. It's really making us widen the scope of our what we're perceiving as normalcy, basically. So I'm really excited to see where they can take this series next for the next arc and the one after that, because I have a feeling that everything is going to start becoming more and more intertwined here with the next couple issues as they start coming out. In regard to this issue, though, really good stuff. All right, let's talk Daredevil number 21, written by Saladin Ahmed with artwork by Jose Pinto. This was an okay issue. I feel like we're starting to get more and more outside of the scope of our previous arc where we had Pastor Matt and kind of dealing with all the sins of his past. And now we're dealing with a Matt that is trying to find his footing and figure out where he goes from here. And it's somewhat effective. I feel like the story was it was okay. It was very interesting. We've never seen this kind of villainous character really combat Daredevil before, as it's really something that he has ingested. It's a disease that is really kind of taking over his senses and making him question what he's seeing and what he's perceiving. And it's, basically like a fungal infection that is growing very truly outside of his body and has taken over most of the inhabitants of this building. The visuals in this were really, really cool. It really made me look back to some of the artwork that I've been reading recently within the back issues of Swamp Thing. It really has that Steve Bissette kind of feel for the things that Jose Pinto is doing. And when I say that, I mean that in very high regards, because those Swamp Thing issues are awesome. And what I see here, equally awesome. I wish that the story that we were being told here kind of ramped it up and really kind of like pushed the narrative a little bit more than it is right now to match those visuals, though. I don't feel like I'm getting enough development each and every time that we have an issue of this book that's making me enticed to come back. The previous arc took way too long to actually deliver any kind of anything of substance, really, and I'm fearful that we're going to get that here. Time will tell. I did like this issue, I just didn't love it. When a new Tynion book hits, everyone takes notice, me included. So let's talk Exquisite Corpses number 1, written by James Tynion with artwork by Michael Walsh. This was an interesting premise, as what we're being delivered here is essentially there is a shadow cabal of individuals that have secretly been running the government basically since its inception. There's 13 families that have been basically have a competition each and every 4 years, I believe it is, where it's kind of pick and choose who is going to run the nation during that time period. And we're in one of those next transitional periods here. And how they do that is they basically quarantine a town, have killers go in and rack up a bunch of kill counts, basically, in an effort to basically see who will win out here. And each killer has to kill each other as well until there is only one winner that's left over. It's an interesting premise, but it's something that's kind of we've seen, over and over. We've seen it in movies, we've seen it in, all kinds of different kind of, media factions. It's kind of like a combination of like that movie Smoking Aces and The Purge kind of smashed together. Michael Walsh's artwork in here is very dynamic. I really love what they're doing here. I'm a big fan of Michael Walsh. He's done great work here in Frankenstein. He's writing Null Hunter right now, but he's doing the variant covers on that as well. And he did the work on Silver Coin. He's living up to the standard of the name. He is, kind of just leveling up each and every time that we see something that he's putting out. In regard to the storyline itself, I'm kind of conflicted because Tynan usually gets his hooks in me in issue number 1. And then for me personally, it becomes a letdown because I love the premise so much, but the story and the narrative don't hit me where it needs to. Well, this feels a little bit different. It feels like the premise of this book is something I've been delivered previously, and I'm wondering if I'm going to have that inverse effect now where it's like, oh, this didn't excite me like the other Tynion books, but maybe it builds from there and I actually gain that excitement that I don't get from the other ones. Time will tell on this. I had enough to where I liked it, and I'm going to come back for issue number 2 and probably 3 to give it a fair shot. I can't say that I loved it though, but I'm cautiously optimistic. Next up, we have Immortal Thor number 23, written by Al Ewing with artwork by Jan Bezeldua. It feels like we're ramping down and getting into the end game of Al Ewing's time with Immortal Thor, and it's been okay. We're definitely in, giving Thor some kind of like, rogues gallery or some kind of like threat that is really, I don't know, makes him test his might and test all of the powers that he has. Right now he's kind of combating the elder gods, if you will, and he has Scourge alongside with him, and he's trying his best to save Heimdall, who's been captured by them. The artwork in here is just okay. It delivers on a lot of the ideas that the narrative is trying to spell out, but it doesn't necessarily bring that big wow factor that I think that this book would really need to kind of like, I don't know, just match the narrative and the visuals. The story is okay. I like what they're doing, but I just needed something a little bit more here. It seems like they're dragging the ending out a little bit more than what they would have liked to do. And I don't know how I feel about that. I'm ready for the end game to take place. This does lead into a cliffhanger ending that's kind of brings an old Thor rogue back into the forefront. It was kind of to be expected that something was going to happen in this, with these two characters at some point or another. Now it looks like that time has come. So overall, I think this is going to read okay. It very much felt like a bit of a filler issue here. Time will tell if this is going to be pivotal, but it seems like the next issue is going to be something big and bold. The speculator community was out in hordes with the blind bags, so let's talk Invincible Universe Battle Beast number 1, written by Robert Kirkman with artwork by Ryan Otley. This was like a super fun issue. This was incredibly fun. And I've always been a big fan of what Robert Kirkman does for the comic book community. I haven't always been a fan of his writing, and every book isn't like always resonating with me, but it feels like he is a fan of the medium and he cares about it so much. So when the blind bag kind of thing came up, I couldn't help but smile a little bit because clearly he's trying to get people into comic book shops and get them excited about comics. I will always love that about him. In regard to the issue, I gotta say, like, it was super fun. Was it anything mind blowing? Was it anything world changing? No. But we're talking about a big humanoid tiger type person who goes on this murderous rampage looking for someone who can best his abilities, for someone that can actually, I don't know, take him down, like bring him to the death, the worthy death that he's been looking for. He's very much like a Craven the Hunter type person. If you would, something like that, basically. And it's really fun watching him go through the motions of trying to track down anything that will take him down and give him some kind of challenge. And the snarkiness of the robots, basically the AI that runs the ship that he's on, who is actually actively trying to kill him as well and helping him find this thing, was really fun. The artwork by Ryan Otley is really the star of this issue, though. Every single battle that takes place is like blood soaked and like just very kinetic and like supercharged, and I love what they were doing there. It really makes the simple narrative of a person fighting over and over and over shine. Ryan Otley does really great work here. The colors really pop on every single fight scene that we see here as well. Overall, it was just a lot of fun, man. It was big, dumb fun. And sometimes that's just what you want out of a comic book. So if you're looking for that kind of thing, Battle Beast is probably what you're seeking. Speaking of battles, let's talk One World Under Doom number 4, written by Ryan North with artwork by R.B. Silva. This issue was all about Doom versus Dormammu, and the notion of that seems really exciting, and I really like, kind of like what that could lead to. But this issue kind of let me down. It felt like it was a disservice to Doom and everything that he really stands for and everything that he has presented in the past as well when it comes to battling people and kind of the one-upsmanship that he brings to the table, because he's very proud of how he can basically maneuver and strategize and be one step ahead of everyone, and yet also can't do that here. So I don't know. Like, I understand from a story perspective, they're going to need to get to the point where Doom relinquishes his powers and everything kind of goes back to normal. But to do so in this manner felt, I don't know, disheartening. I didn't like how the resolution played out with this. It does set up for something that could be cool from a comic booky kind of standpoint, but from some, from what I wanted here, which is going to be big, bold, wide sweeping changes or something that, makes my jaw drop. I didn't get that delivered here. Everything was very expected. Everything was very cookie cutter. And that's kind of a bummer. I was hoping that this would actually lead into something really cool because the onset of this event was kind of bold and I loved what they were delivering. The end game, what we're going to get delivered here, doesn't seem like it's going to be delivering on that. So, in regard to this single issue here, like it was good, but it definitely left me wanting more. All right, next up we have Phoenix number 11, written by Stephanie Phillips with artwork by Rio Mercado. This one was a bit clunky for me. I didn't really love this issue as I felt like the narrative really kind of had this repetition to it that I didn't feel was needed. It kind of felt like they were trying to pad the pages on here to maybe stretch something out a bit. There were some really nice moments between Jean and Scott where they're having a psychic conversation, and it's all based around the premise of Jean's long dead sister, who maybe isn't long dead at this point. But they kept kind of circling back and referencing things that happened a couple pages back that were just that. They were just a couple pages back. You don't need to remind me of things that happened just, seconds away from each other. I remember them. I think it's a little bit, I don't know, cumbersome for a reading experience. And it's kind of been that way for the last couple issues for me. The artwork here was good, but I have to say, I really wanted Miracolo back on this book. I feel like their artwork and their style was so fitting for the character, especially with the nature of the Phoenix and the costume change that happened. Their design work and what they delivered on the pages looked really, really fantastic. Not having them on this book, unfortunately, kind of gives this a reason for me to put this, in danger of being dropped from the pull list. The narrative needs to pick it up. I think that they have good ideas, but the delivery mechanism of those ideas kind of feels, again, just like the narrative, very clunky to me. So, Phoenix number 11, I don't know. It's in danger. All right, let's talk Space Ghost number 12, written by David Papos with artwork by Jonathan Lau. So this issue kind of puts an end cap to our second arc within Space Ghost here. We have one more annual that's going to come out that hopefully really kind of ties everything together. As a single issue experience, though, this was really, really good. We've been dealing with kind of the separation of the Space Ghost family as Jan and Jace have kind of like wanted to strike out on their own, but they were pulled back in because the Council of Doom has really put Space Ghost through the ringer. They're at the point where they're going to destroy the planet. They're going to destroy Space Ghost himself. They have to come in and save the day, and they do so in really fantastic manners. It really pulls the family dynamic back together, which was really great. Nothing was cloying and nothing was like overwrought in this. It felt really authentic and real. And the other thing I really like is that there's an adventurous nature of this book that harkens back to like a feeling you get from 80s comic books, but in the best way possible. It feels classic, but it doesn't read classic, if that makes sense. If you're a fan of Claremont's X-Men run, something like that has those type of feelings and those type of, I don't know, notions and ideas, which I really, really love here. I'm excited to see where this goes. From what I understand, this is the end of volume 1 of Space Ghost. We're going to get an annual, but things are going to kick back off here with volume 2 in the very near future. I'm excited to see what they're going to be doing here as things move on. All right, let's talk Transformers number 20, written by Daniel Warren Johnson with artwork by Jorge Corona. This felt like the calm before the storm. We know that Daniel Warren Johnson's time is wrapping up with Transformers. I think he has maybe 5 more issues after this one. And it feels like they're kind of setting the stage for the epic showdown that's going to take place. This issue was very Megatron heavy, as it should be. His introduction was shown within the pages here that he is now going to be a threat to the Autobots, and he spends a lot of time with some of the other Decepticons here, really showing his true might and showing his intentions. And it's really awesome what he does. He does not take any prisoner whatsoever. So if you've wronged Megatron, he is going to bring you down low. The other thing is that Optimus, they have these quiet moments where they're really just trying to recalibrate and try to figure out How are we going to move forward? How are we going to protect humanity, but also stop the Decepticons and really just do what's right for Cybertron and the Cybertronians? I kind of love it. He's kind of introspective and he's trying to figure out, hey, I'm dealing with all these issues myself with, these rage bouts that I'm going through as I'm in the heat of battle that are become uncontrollable. How am I going to mitigate that to make sure that everyone remains safe while I'm going through these things? Like I said, it's really setting the stage for what is going to happen in the future, and we get hints of things that are going to be happening here. I'm not a Transformers head, so maybe these things are more obvious than what they seem to be, but there's definitely hints of something that's coming down the pipeline, which really kind of get me excited, even as only a casual fan of the medium. So, Transformers number 20, I really kind of dug it. It's setting the stage, and I'm really excited to see where they're going to be taking this moving forward. Next up, we have Ultimate Black Panther number 16, written by Brian Hill with artwork by Carlos Nito. The slow burn does continue in this issue. Let's get that right out front here. If the slow burn killed you on this book, it is not going to draw you back in. But this was a very action-centric story. There was a lot of cool things that happen here as T'Challa and Aurora are still teamed up together, and they take on essentially the avatar of Vibranium itself. And that was a really fun battle to take place. It was really cool what they did here. That's really the biggest change too with the 616 version of Black Panther and the Ultimate version right now is that the notion of vibranium is totally different in this world than what we have in the Marvel proper universe. That's exciting. And what if you're kind of excited by that idea, you should really be picking up this book. It is a slow burn, but it's delivering some of those new ideas. It's the biggest change that we have here. And I think I like the question more so than anything. Does vibranium make the man? Does vibranium make the hero? That's what's really being called into question here. And they're proving issue after issue that he can do that without the vibranium. And I really love that. Carlos Nito's artwork here is really nice. I think it fits everything that we've seen from this book overall. He's a great pitch hitter here for the book. And I love the relationship that they're showing between T'Challa and Aurora. You can see that their trust and just kind of the kinship is growing and growing. It is going to get to the point where it seems very clear that this is going to drive a wedge between Aurora and Killmonger, and even T'Challa and his own wife. So it's gonna, if they let this kind of boil over, it's going to cause some really dramatic things to happen, which are going to be very entertaining as a reader of this book. So Ultimate Black Panther here, again, it's not going to change your mind if you've already dropped this, but if you're still along for the ride, I think you're really going to like it. All right, let's talk Ultimate X-Men number 15, written and drawn by Peach Momoko. So similar to what I was saying here with Ultimate Black Panther, this is not going to change your mind if you kind of dropped off on Ultimate X-Men. But if you're along for the ride, you're going to dig this one too. This one really calls into question, I guess, the investigatory parts of the book here, as we have Quanen's brother who is looking into the Children of the Atom cult, and we also have the children themselves who are investigating the Children of the Atom from a different aspect, though. They're really looking for Hisako, trying to figure out how they can help these people, and seeing the nature of this mysterious mutant who has basically been powering these regenerative abilities. I like what they're doing here, and it's ramping up and it's building and building and building, but it's kind of like small building blocks each and every issue that we're getting. We haven't gotten like this huge thing that's happened yet that's really been a call to action for every character in this book, but it has really kind of built out this greater ensemble, which was a bit of a struggle early on in the series because you didn't have the level of care for these characters at that time, and they kind of threw you into the mix. Well, now that we have that level of care, you're starting to see how these interactions work out and kind of like what it means for all these characters to be put into the danger that they're being delivered on each and every time. So I like what they're doing here. This issue was good. It was, again, another small building block here. I'm excited to see now where these revelations take us. With our runner-up pick of the week, let's talk Phantom Road number 12, written by Jeff Lemire with artwork by Gabriel Hernandez Walta. I loved this issue. This was really great. We're still spending time in the past of this Phantom Road world, and we're kind of like getting the origin story, if you will, of the Herald character, the guy that has been stuck between these worlds and has been kind of having interactions with our main players, the people who are trying to move this egg from point A to point B. And now the world is opening up, and now we understand what is truly happening on these highways and how they navigate between these dimensions and maybe who is after these eggs. I kind of dig it. It's not giving you all the answers, but it's treating it just like the best story arcs within the X-Files universe of that TV show was, where it gives you just enough answers to make you question so many more things that keep enticing you to come back for more. Walta's artwork on here is just pitch perfect. I think he is like maybe my favorite artist to be paired with Jeff Lemire when it comes to these type of stories. It's just really fantastic work here. And when it comes to kind of Harold's story, I really like how they're making it to where he looked like a villainous character at first, when we saw him very early on in the series. And now we're understanding a little bit more, and he's kind of turning from that villainous character to something totally different, basically. I like where this is going. There's so much mystery to this world. It makes it really enriching, really enticing. If you're not picking up Phantom Road, you definitely should be. And with my top comic of the week, let's talk Geiger number 14, written by Jeff Johns with artwork by Gary Frank. The story has a lot to do with this, but we're going to start things off with Gary Frank on artwork because I feel like this is probably the most energetic and exciting issue that they have crafted thus far. There are so many things that he just does right from a storytelling perspective, from a narrative perspective, and really from that action-packed perspective, because this issue is a epic fight scene and a survival scene between Geiger and Ash Arden, the person who he kind of had an alliance with, but now he's finding out maybe there's more to the story about what she is truly trying to do. It was awesome. The visuals in this, every single page, I don't think they could have done anything better than what you get delivered. The storyline here is absolutely fantastic as well because it's the biggest ramp up I feel like we've gotten in Geiger. This really pushes the narrative forward because now it's kind of like the end game of the first arc, if you will, or the first kind of narrative drive. He's been trying to find this other glowing person. He found the glowing person. Now they're coming to heads here over what they are both trying to accomplish in being or not being the glowing people. And what we're seeing now is the ancillary characters, their influence over Tariq is really taking hold, and you can see him making decisions that maybe the Tariq in issue number 1 would not have made. But flip that around, and you're also seeing all those ancillary characters make decisions that maybe they would not have made if they weren't influenced by Tariq himself. They're drawing out the best of each other, and it's being shown as opposed to being told. And I really love how Jeff Johns is really crafting this story and delivering it. This issue might be my favorite issue of Geiger so far, which is high praise because I've enjoyed every single issue of the series so far. It was just stunning. Geiger's awesome. It hit every single aspect I like, from a comic booky aspect, from a narrative aspect, from a visual aspect. It was just, I don't know, absolutely worthy, I guess, of top comic of the week. So that's what I've got for you this week, but I'm more curious. What did you read and what were your thoughts? Do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe, and be part of the panel. Leave me a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you next week.